This is Inside the Locker Room, where football isn't just a game, it's a war zone. Every take, unfiltered. Every prediction, ruthless. From Sunday battles to primetime legends. We break down the matchups, the mind games, and the moments that define champions. Fantasy, film, trash talk, all inside the locker room. So if you came for smoke, you're in the fire now.
We are back with another episode of Inside the Locker Room, and this is a good one because it is the start of our HBCU Hoops series. We've been hyping this up for a minute, and we got a good one. We got former Grambling player Johnathan Aku joining us today. But Justin, Michael, how you doing today, man?
Man, I'm doing good. To God be the glory. It's another wonderful, prosperous day. I'm excited for the special guest that we have. This is just a step in the right direction for not just inside the locker room, but for the HBCU community.
Agreed. And look, one thing I will say about this, we've been ramping up, with the subscribers. We're at 289. We had 290 to the one person that unsubscribed. I hope that you resubscribe back. I don't know why you unsubscribed, but we've had some good content. Thank y'all for tuning in to our shorts. Michael's Saint short is approaching 90 views right now. Mine's hit I think 166, and Ben's was at 66. So we just keep ramping up our views. Remember, our goal is 500, but right now we're trying to get to 300 because we are on the way. But to get this started, let's get our guest on the show. Johnathan, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great, man. How you guys doing?
We're doing well. And look, we speak to you before about just, the impact of HBCU sports, and how it's just impactful. And look, we're glad to have you on, and we're just knowing that this is going to do wonders. We've had former athletes on in the future, and like we said before the show, this is just a stepping stone. And like you said, this is a slow grind. But Michael, I know that you were the one that got this all set up. What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts? Questions?
Yeah, first of all, Johnathan, man, again, brother, we appreciate you so much, man, for taking the time to be.
Thank you for having me, man. No problem.
Thank
you for having me.
And I'm going to say this to you, and I'm going to say this to all other HBCU fan base or any alumni, whatever. What we do on this podcast is to lift HBCU communities to a higher level that other podcasters are not doing. And for former players or players in general, like you, Johnathan, this is to not only, lift your name up, but it's also lift the other players around the world that are in HBCUs that we're here. We're no different from these big school guys that are getting the attention. So all this, what me and Deuce do is to not hurt, but to lift. But my first question to you is, this is basically a basic question right here. What was it about Grambling State that made you choose to play there over other programs?
Let me start by saying this, because I went to a Power 5 school my first 2 years of college. Then
SFA,
I went
right? SFA?
No, I was at Texas A&M my first
Texas
year.
A&M?
Yeah. Then I went to Stephen F. Austin. Didn't really play much there. Then I transferred to Grambling. What I would say is, when I came to Grambling, I felt like that was the most I had fun playing basketball. Like it was a lot more fun. Like the coaches were like family, the players were like family, and it's like I played basketball 3 years before that, different schools, but Grambling just felt like home. It just felt like where I needed to be, and it's like, I don't know. It's just the culture. It's a lot of things, and I felt like if I would have done it again, I probably would have went to Grambling earlier. To be honest, because it's just fun. It's just somewhere you want to be. To be honest, like the HBCU culture, like the band, like the football games. In general, it's just fun. It's just fun. Like it's nothing to compare to it. To be honest, and if I do it again, I would have went to Grambling a lot earlier.
Look, here. This is what I gotta say. Y'all made it to the NCAA play tournament a few
Yeah.
years back. What was just that experience like? I'm gonna say this because I'm in the band, so a lot of my friends that are since I'm a sophomore, a lot of my junior friends that were freshmen, they always tell me, "Oh, we got to spend like a week in Ohio." It was like just what was that whole winning the SWAC tournament, going to play Purdue, and look, I know y'all lost. Look, y'all won the first four.
Yeah.
Y'all played Purdue that a lot of people did not even expect y'all to go that far. Just what were your thoughts?
Man, like I would say this, like the start of that season was kind of rough because it's like we went on the losing streak. We lost a lot of games. We lost a lot of games. But it's like when the conference season started, it's like something clicked, and it's like everybody just picked up a role. It's like, okay, if you score better than me, okay, you go score. I'll rebound. I'll defend. I'll do other stuff. It's like everybody just assumed the role, and everybody picked a role, and everybody did what they did best. And it's like we had a lot of dudes that could score, and like we had dudes that could defend. We had dudes that could what you call it, block shot, whatever. But what made us special is like nobody was trying to overdo things. Everybody just knew their role and just stuck to it. So it's like, okay, if you're the guard and we know like, okay, we count on you to take most of the shot. We know where the shot is coming from. We're not assuming like, oh, okay, this dude who's not supposed to take a shot is taking the shot. So if you holding the ball and let's say you're making a move, like we should assume that you about to score. So we know to crash the ball, try to get a rebound, stuff like that. And it's like going through the season, like our chemistry grew because like even outside of basketball, we hung out together. We did a lot of stuff together. Like in the group text, like it was all love. It was no it was no hatred. It was no fights. It was no nothing. Even when we lost, we like, man, it's all good, man. We just let it go and on to the next one. So it's like it's nobody really holding on to the past. We just on to the next one. So through that season, lost my train of thought. Through that season, like I said, like chemistry just kept growing, and somehow, some way, we won the regular season. Went to the tournament. The tournament's a lot more pressure because once you lose one game, you're out. So we got there the year before. We lost in the final because we had I think about two guys out. That was like key for us to win the year before, but we lost them because due to whatever happening. So the next year coming in, we vowed that we wasn't gonna lose that tournament, and we was gonna come home with a championship. So like from the first game to the final, the way we was playing, I just knew like I don't see us losing. There's no way because everybody was playing out of their mind. T Mike was hitting crazy shots. Smeedy was going crazy. I mean, I had, not to put myself in there, but I had my moments too. So it's like we had AB, we had Kentavious, he's Alabama A&M. So we had a couple of guys who were like who was just key to winning, and we just refused to lose. So after that, I mean, everybody was excited, but we didn't celebrate for too long because we know the journey wasn't over. So after that, we had to go home for like a day, then fly back. I forgot where we fly out to. Well, we had to fly out and play. Montana State. Yeah, I think Montana. I forgot.
Yeah, I think it was Montana State.
Yeah, I think Montana State.
That was a close game.
Yeah, hey, I'm telling you, that was.
Sometimes it is. I'm not gonna lie. There is sometimes where I go back and I watch that Grambling versus Montana State first four game because that was a good game. That was a good game.
See, it's games like that, dudes. Is exactly what I'm saying. A lot of teams like Montana State, Purdue, they don't really know how good HBCU basketball teams are
Yeah.
until they
And
face
I feel
them.
like, and that's the craziest part, because I remember like leading up to the game, like it was 50-50 on like ESPN, but a lot of people had Montana State winning, and I mainly because it's a bigger FCS school, a bigger just it's a bigger school than Grambling. But look, at times, like I'm not gonna lie, at times Grambling scared me, but there was times where y'all pulled through, y'all did pull through, and y'all made some clutch baskets. And I see it. I kind of like last year, I kind of saw like the same thing. Grambling started slow. Y'all did well in the playoffs, and then y'all got so close. And I feel like, and I'm just feeling like this year, I feel like Grambling just has a good shot, which called alongside freshman Munoz.
Yeah, they're playing well. They play very well.
You gotta think about the teacher too, and Patrick Creary, the basketball knowledge that he brings. When you bring a basketball coach, and not just any coach, but when you bring a coach that can teach the roots of the basketball game, especially from his experience, and I know you can agree with me on this, Jonathan, because you, if I remember correctly, you played with Dante Jackson, as the head coach. So when you have a coach like those two guys that can teach the game and the fundamentals of what it takes to get the basketball down the court, that transfers into the players, and then that's what makes a team so dominant. And that's why Grambling over the years has been that team, that threat in the SWAC, in the tournament, and in NCAA tournament, because they have good teachers that can teach the transition of the ball.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and
go ahead,
go ahead, man. Go ahead, man.
Yeah, I was gonna add to like the key. The key to like being successful in the in the SWAC is I'll say it's a lot of defense, because like it's gonna be days where your offense is not pulling through, but it's like if you're not scoring, you can't allow the other team to score easily. So it's like if you're having a hard day on offense, you got to make it an even harder day on defense for the other team. So I think that that's that I would say is like the main key, the main key in the SWAC.
Yeah, and that matter of fact, that I just basically just asked you just the same question. Well, not the same question, but I basically led into my second question. So my next question to you is, Jonathan, that which coach, such as Dante Jackson, for example, it could be him or it could be any other coach or teammate, that had the biggest influence on your development as a player and a person while at GSU?
For me, I'll say my coach, Coach Jones, because if when I first got to Grambling, like I wasn't like I was like I wasn't, let's say I wasn't really doing well, but he was really like patient, like work with me daily, and it was like it wasn't something that happened overnight. It took a process, because like the other schools I went to, I didn't really play too much, so it's like it kind of like affected my development. So it's like when I got to Grambling and I started working with him, like I started seeing the change. I started seeing the growth. So and that's why I said if I do it again, I would be here a lot earlier. And to be honest, like I always tell people, don't ever be scared to like go to a smaller school and develop. Like it's nothing wrong with that, because if you go to a bigger school, like a lot of times, like they're expecting you to just come in like ready to go. Like they don't have time to. A lot of schools, I'm not going to say every school, but a lot of schools don't have time to like develop a player. Like it's either you ready or not, because it's like 4 guys in your position that's ready to go. So if you're not ready to go, you're gonna be running on the bench. Right. So and I'll say like for me is my assistant coach, Coach Jones.
It like I gotta ask you this: what is your current thoughts about just the current landscape of the HBCU basketball? We did just see the Chris Paul Classic. We'll talk about this in a minute. Grambling won both games, and I said this coming into this tournament. Grambling was a team, that, and Hampton is a pretty good basketball team if you look at them.
I'm not gonna lie, hey, this surprised a lot of people. To be honest, this surprised me too. I can't even lie. This surprised me too. So, cause I thought like Hampton was gonna be like a little bit of competition, but it's like I'm not gonna say it wasn't hard for them, but it just felt like a breeze. And hey, shout out to those guys, to be honest.
Yeah.
But it's like,
And then,
go ahead.
I was gonna say this because Hampton gave Jackson State, and you can look at the records. Hampton gave Jackson State a run for their money, and I was just saying, just looking at the game, when they played Grambling, it felt like just Grambling. Honestly, in my opinion, they contained them better offensively. They were not allowing Hampton to get to the basket. Their leading scorer from the first night, Grambling contained him all night.
Defense.
Mm-hmm.
It all led back to what I said. Defense, being pesky. Yeah. Like if you could make one of your best players uncomfortable and take him out of his game, the other guys who are not used to like being the person, the head of the snake, or being the person that lead the team, is like it's either they're gonna rise up or they're gonna fall. And a lot of the time, most times, a lot of people don't have the courage to rise up, and you lose.
Like people say all the time, defense wins championships. And me and Deuce, we talk about this all the time. When you play good defense, especially against a good team, their weaknesses start to show. Yeah. And then it's all about taking opportunity on those weaknesses. That's what Grambling did against Hampton. Grambling was getting turnovers and forcing Hampton to shoot shots that were either good look and they just couldn't get them down. That's how it is. That's how it is in the game. When you play a good team like Hampton or Norfolk State, because let's be honest, Norfolk State, like the commentator was saying at the game, they're a pretty good team.
A good program. Their basketball team is a good program. I've seen a lot of people hating on them. Their basketball team is a good program.
Yeah,
they won. I think they won the conference champion. I think they were like conference champions or something like that last year, if I remember correctly.
They was very good last year, but I think like with basketball now, is like with the NIL thing going on, it's like you then have to review it every year. So like I think they lost a couple of guys to that. Yeah. But
I'm gonna ask you this, Johnathan, to the current, just to the current Grambling athletes and just to the current athletes in general, what is your advice to the current athletes just going forward? You say it's a lot, they deal with stuff like the NIL, you got to deal with recruiting. I feel like now in college sports, there's more you got to worry about and more you have to deal with than back then.
Right. That was going to be my question for you as well.
Yeah, that's true. But if I was like to say something to athletes like now, is like, to be honest, yeah, the money cool, like the NIL cool. And I understand, bro. I understand because I was once in college too, so I get it. But to be honest, go where you're gonna play. To be honest, go where you're gonna play. Yeah. Like if you want to chase the money or whatever, like cool. But like also go where you're gonna get the money and play. Don't just go and just and ride it, man, and just. Yeah, you might get the money and stuff, but at the same time too, if you're not producing, you're not gonna be here the following year. So if you go there, you're not producing, you might be back to where you started. So it's like, just be smart, bro. Yeah, like I said, the money cool, but be smart.
Hey, look, I pretty much asked everything I had to. Look, I haven't got to speak a little bit more. That's why I like talking with athletes. I like talking sports. That's just our thing over here. But Michael, you got anything else?
I'm basically all good. I did have some other questions, but like I said, for the sake of time, I do not want to take any longer of your time. But I will say this, man, your presence has been a huge impact, not just for me and Deuce, but for the HBCU community. So spread the word. Because like I said, we're not trying to hurt, we're trying to lift. So spread the word to any former coaches, teammates, or even teammates now that you're, in contact with. Who
do you want to see? I mean, if you got any of my former teammates you want to see, just let me know. I'll talk to them, get on.
Oh, look.
Yeah, just let me know. Just let me know. I'll work for you.
And you're always welcome back on the show. Anytime. We tell this to our guests anytime. You're always
let me say this. I'm gonna say this. When Grambling play Alabama A&M, have me on here after the game.
Oh.
That's when I want to come back.
You know what? That's a good thought because I just thought about that too. Because it's gonna be Dante Jackson and Patrick
Yeah,
Patrick Curry,
that's what I want to
two
see.
basketball knowledge guys. Man, that's gonna be huge. But I'm glad you said that, Deuce. I need to write that down.
I'm gonna take note of that. But look, Johnathan, one more thing before you go. Look, for the Christmas, it is the Christmas holidays, and look, we were talking about this with our other co-hosts. But look, can you just shout out inside the locker room and just say Merry Christmas to our guests and to our fans? And look, you're good. You're good to go.
Let me say this, man. Man. You say shout out inside the locker room?
Yes, and just a Merry Christmas to our fans.
Shout out inside the locker room, man, and Merry Christmas to the fans and Merry Christmas to everybody, man. Have a blessed Christmas.
Yes, and thank you for joining. But Michael, look, we said this when we started this. Did we expect it to get? I'm like this fast. I didn't think this fast. I didn't think this fast. Look, we get. I feel like now we just have athletes left and right, just down to get on our podcast, and that's good because I feel like we're just doing works. And look, we got 700 views on our last video with Nate. And look, I'm sorry to the people watching that. We're expecting us to have a video for the Celebration Bowl, and we're going to talk about that later in another video. Just look, my head was hurting. I could not record that day. But Michael, I do want to talk about getting into our HBCU basketball hoops. The Chris Paul Classic. For the sake of time, I was going to talk about the D2 and the D3 schools, but I cannot do that today. But what we will do is talk about the main games. But the first game I want to talk about is Grambling Norfolk State. What are your thoughts on that game?
Honestly, dude, like first and foremost, I did not expect Grambling to play the way they did. And what I mean by that is just watching the game, I knew that the talent that Patrick Curry brought was going to be a huge, upgrade, but I did not expect it to be as electrifying and just high energetic than that first game one. And you see the energy, you see the passion that Patrick Curry has brought to this team because he started, he played for Florida A&M. He coached at Florida A&M. And, what kind of happened, I'm not really going to get too deep into that, but, sometimes things happen. And you bring him into Grambling because according to what the commentator was saying, he basically said that a lot of teams wanted him. And it was just something about Grambling State University that made him come that way. And he even said it. It was just something about Grambling State that just made me want to come here, and I'm here to stay. And you see the passion that he has in his coaching. It's on a whole nother level. And I think in conference play, I believe Grambling can be dangerous, but it's going to take one game at a time because we all know conference games are not easy.
And we're not just hyping up Graham because we are going to talk about Alabama A&M. And one thing I will say about basketball is there's so many good basketball teams. HBCU, and I was telling Michael this. It's so many HBCU basketball schools that we're just going to 1 week we're going to have to find a select few to talk about. So it doesn't seem like we're biased. And, I feel like we failed to we didn't fail, but we necessarily didn't reach our goal to talk about the smaller D2, D3 HBCUs football teams in time. But we are going to talk about that, next year. But for the basketball, I just feel like it's a lot of good basketball teams. But I will say this before I give the mic back to Michael. Norfolk State, I feel like a lot of people are sleeping on them just due to their record. Norfolk State is still a pretty good basketball program, Michael.
Sure.
And I feel like at first during the game, before Grambling, I'm gonna say this: Grambling had control of it, but I feel like Norfolk still gave them a run for their money at times, like cutting the lead. I feel like we're going to talk about the Jackson State and the Hampton game in a bit, but I feel like at times you could see Norfolk cut into the lead, but many errors like Grambling boxing out and playing defense, making shots through. And we're going to talk about Anthony Munoz in a second because, like I was telling you on the group chat, they were moving the offense through him. Really, it seemed that's from my view. But I feel like a lot of people are sleeping on Norfolk. A lot last year, Norfolk literally was a good program. And Michael, if I was correct, you said they made the championship game.
Yeah. Yeah, if I remember correctly from watching the game, I just finished the highlight of the Norfolk State Grambling game either 2 days ago or a day ago. So based off what he said, they were either in the conference championship or they were runner up in the conference championship, if I
Yeah,
remember correctly.
basically just
I could be wrong. Though. I could be wrong. You know.
if we are wrong, correct us in the comments. But
Yeah.
just what are your thoughts on this game? What are your thoughts on Anthony Munoz? Michael, you said he's a special player. You told
Very.
Nate that you said he's a special player, and you said our head coach is lucky to have him.
He is, and he is for a guy like him to just dominate in such a magnificent way. Dude, he had 22 points and he was 10 of 14 shooting and added 5 rebounds. Like his skill level is just on a whole nother level. And as a freshman, and I say this all the time, regardless of your class, it's just about how you play. And it's guys like, Anthony Munoz that is shown and proven time and time again is that class doesn't matter. What matters is about how you go on that court. Once those 2 feet hit that court, it's about how you go out there and how you play. Because your game is your game. But at the same time, you have to follow the coach's game as well. And that's what Anthony Munoz is doing. I know probably what I said didn't make sense, but if you just, look at the roots of, basketball in general, it it starts with the coaches, then it transfers on to the players because what the players learn from the coaches, it transfers on to the court. And I'm just gonna basically start off with key game notes. First thing, dominant first half. Grambling built a commanding 38-21 halftime lead, shooting 48% in the first half while limiting Norfolk to just 23.7%. Munoz leads Tigers. Like I said, not just a few seconds ago, Antonio Munoz led all scorers with 22 points, 10 of 14 shooting, and added 5 rebounds. Another thing, premier support. Ricky Ballard added 19 points for the Tigers, including 4 3-pointers. Let's not forget, dudes, Grambling is a really good 3-point shooting team. And let me also say this about them. The way they move the ball around and find open spaces to get their players in the paint, dudes, it's like anything I've ever seen. It's Grambling has such beautiful ball movement that it's just like, man, this is well coached. And even the commentator said the way Grambling is moving the ball around, it's just like it's beautiful work. And you can't deny that. And that's just premier teaching of a coach that knows the game. And it's just that simple. Rebounding advantage. Dude, I think this was going to shock you right here. Grambling dominated the boards, out rebounding the Spartans 44-33. Turnaround effort. Now, I will say this. Norfolk State outscored Grambling 47-42 in the second half, cutting the lead to 12 in the final minutes. But the early deficit was too much to overcome. I will admit to that. Now, like you said, those team records. Grambling improved to 4-6, breaking a 5-game losing streak, while Norfolk State fell to 4-8. Records don't matter.
5 game losing streak. They had a close game with Southern Miss. They had a close game with Tulane. Records don't. I feel like right now for conference play, especially with basketball, you take that with a grain of salt. When you actually get into conference play, that's when you start to really make your judgments.
Exactly.
I feel like we say this with football in general. Conference play is where it matters. PV didn't start so hot in non-conference play. And what they did amazing conference playing all the way to the SWAC Championship.
And sometimes the non-conference games, in a way, it can kill the team's momentum. But I understand this for money purposes. And dudes, you know how I am when it comes down to out of conference games and playing these big schools to just get embarrassed. But what I am proud of is how these HBCUs.
I hate to cut you off. With basketball, I feel like HBCUs have more of an edge because basketball, the competition levels are more even. We see Grambling, we see these upsets all the time. So I feel like these money games for HBCUs in basketball sense, I feel like sometimes HBCUs get their money's worth.
Yeah, and there are some teams that can pull it off, and there are some teams that can't pull it off. It's not basically saying that they're a bad team either way. whether you win or lose, you can't say these HBCU teams are bad teams. They're just these bigger schools. They're just bigger programs with more money. And at the same time, but what we have to understand is that what I'm liking from these HBCUs is that they're not backing down. It's teams like Southern, I'm gonna jump the ship. I'm gonna jump over across the sea for a minute. Southern women's basketball team, dudes, they beat Arizona. Okay, they were undefeated going into playing Arizona, and they beat them. It's teams like the Lady Jaguars. It's teams like Grambling. Almost beating Tulane, and I could go down the list here. But what I'm starting to love to see. What'd you say?
Bethune-Cookman almost beating Auburn at the beginning of the season.
Exactly. That's another example right there. What I'm liking from these HBCU teams, dudes, is that they're not backing down. They're giving them competition, letting you know that, hey, even though we're a smaller HBCU team, we're here to play, and we're going to give you a run for your money because make no mistake, we might be smaller than you, but we're still at the same competitive level as you are. So it's teams like Auburn, it's teams like Tulane, it's teams like Louisiana Tech, it's teams like ULM, it's teams like Georgia, it's teams like Alabama, it's teams like them in general that have to understand that you might be ranked or bigger, but the competitive level is at dead center. And that's what these bigger schools have to understand about HBCUs. Now, I know a lot of big school fans might not agree, but I don't mean to be rude, I don't mean to be biased, but I don't care. I don't care. I don't mean to be biased, I don't mean to be rude, Lord forgive me, but I don't care. What you need to understand is that HBCUs are that team, they are competitive, just like your team is. But
Michael,
to sum all this up, what's up, man?
I want to say this though. What are your thoughts on because about the game? Like a huge issue I feel like that came down to was Norfolk just didn't have the same bench compared to Graham. I feel like Graham could really dive into their bench and and really substitute guys compared to Norfolk State. You 3 people on your bench had points compared to Graham. Shout out to Jamil Matib, if I'm saying the name right. 13 points, 4 for 11, 2 for 8, 2 for 8 at the 3-point line, 2 rebounds and 1 assist. You had Makai Fitz 4 points off the bench. You had Darius Ward 10 points off the bench. You get the pattern here.
Yeah, and then look at the shooting and the stats, dudes. I wrote this down. You can take note of this if you want to. Grambling shooting percentage, all of them. I'm gonna give it to you, list by list. Grambling 48.2% in field goal range, 39.1% in 3-point percentage. Okay, to sum all that up, that's 9 of 23. That is actually not bad, but that's average amongst a lot of teams. A lot of teams shoot around 30 to 40%.
Norfolk went 3 for 15, from the 3-point. So just compare that. Grambling overall shot better. And we were literally saying this with Munoz. They were getting I feel like we know that. I feel like he kind of is the focal point of that offense. Okay. Just how like Dozier was with Graham. I feel like we know teams have that's not that star player, but that player who they can run the offense through, right? Munoz is that player that Grambling can run the offense through. We've seen that it was opening looks all night.
And here's the thing: you want to know how those open looks came? Even the commentators say this, and I'll say it again because I said it not too long ago. Ball movement, dudes. They were passing the ball all around the court, setting screens, and not only that, picking up on screens. Dudes, they were moving. These players were moving with high speed. They were moving with physicality. They were moving with discipline. They were moving just how it's supposed to be, textbook. Picking up on screens, passing the ball around, good ball movement. That's how Grambling was able to get open looks. If you watch the game, that's what Grambling did all day. Passing the ball around, setting up looks, screens. I mean, it was there. And the only way it was there because Patrick Creary made the calls and they adjusted. There were times they were moving too fast, and Patrick McCurry like, hey, slow down. And they did that. And when they slowed down, they got more creative. Those, like you just said, Grambling out, they shot better than Norfolk State did. But Norfolk State, I will say this.
Norfolk
Their
State
shooting
better second half. They played a better second half, and I feel like it made up for the first half.
Yeah. I mean, look how they shot from the free throw line. Grambling shot 17 or 22 from the free throw line, and Norfolk State shot 11 of 25 from the free throw line. I don't have the percentage, but that's basically the range of how the free throw shooting was. But at the same time, like you just said, Grambling shot better than Norfolk State, and I think that's what the key turning point of the game was. Top performers. Well, you already know this. Antonio Munoz, 22 points. Ricky Ballard, 19 points. Jamil, I think I'm saying his last name right. Matibly shot 13 points. Norfolk State. And if I didn't say Jamil's last name right, y'all forgive me. Correct me in the comments. Y'all forgive me. I'm not good with names. I'm going to be honest with y'all. But Norfolk State, Elijah Jamison, 26 points. Devin Ellis, 12 points, 7 rebounds. Anthony McCollum III shot 12 points. So make no mistake, Norfolk State, they had talent. But Grambling just shot way better than them throughout the course of the game. And that's what the turning point was. But I will say this. I got to give Norfolk State credit because they fought back in the second half, outscoring Grambling 47-42 and making the game come down to just 12 points in the final minute. So Norfolk State had fight in them, and they bounced back. They bounced back after this Grambling game because if I remember correctly, they won the next following game after they lost to Grambling.
Yeah,
they beat key adjustments that had to be made.
They beat Norfolk, turned around, and that's what we keep saying. Norfolk is not a bad program, but who I do want to talk about is actually kind of for time purposes, kind of drifting away from this tournament. And Alabama A&M, Michael, we were just talking about them, and I know it's kind of drifting away from our notes, but I just feel like while we were interviewing Johnathan, it just came to our mind how this Alabama A&M team is going to be really special. Michael, you told me when Dante Jackson went over there with Graham, it was to Alabama A&M, it was going to be evident that he was going to take some players, and Dozier he's playing amazing. He's just elevated, and I feel like Alabama A&M, Dante Jackson is really getting to coach that team how he wants to. He has the players to do so.
Yes, and it's going to get better and more competitive from here. And like Johnathan just said, this game is going to get more and more competitive because you got Dante Jackson and Patrick Creary in the same conference. And make no mistake, and there are many other coaches, like the coach of Bethune-Cookman. I can't think of his name right now, but those three teams right there, Grambling, Alabama A&M, Bethune-Cookman, those teams. I'm just gonna go ahead and say Southern, for example.
So you can throw Southern and you can throw Prairie View.
Yes,
there's a lot of HBCU teams in there. And I'm gonna say this real quick before I get the mic back to you. For this Grambling versus Alabama A&M game that is played on February 9th, we're gonna have to do something for it to hype it up because I feel like this game is gonna have. They play twice. They play on February 9th first, and then they play They play on March 3rd in Alabama A&M in March 3rd. I feel like these two games, it's going to be on the same hype level as Jackson State and Alabama State. It's just certain games, and then Grambling plays. Hold up. So really, you got Grambling kicks off the conference play with Prairie View, who is a good squad at home, good squad at home. Maybe I catch that game in person. Maybe I don't. I don't know yet. But Michael, what are your thoughts about Alabama? I'm giving the mic right back to you.
Yeah, first of all, I got to give credit to Dante Jackson, Alabama A&M, for the way they played at Ole Miss. To some of y'all who don't know, Ole Miss defeated Alabama A&M Bulldogs 80-66. Now that score might seem, that seem a little far advantage. Actually, not, because Alabama A&M fought with Ole Miss. they did not back down. And it's guys like Dante Jackson that you have to understand that, can I just suggest to y'all that Coach Dante Jackson is just that guy. His coaching staff is just that coaching staff. And majority of his coaching staff was at Grambling with him. And they went with him. It's like you said, Deuce, everything that Dante Jackson had, he packed everything up, jumped on the plane, and took everything that he had from Grambling to Alabama A&M. So Alabama A&M can be two things. They can be dangerous, like Grambling was with Dante Jackson, or in this first season, they could fall off. It's just depending on how, conference play. You just never know. Sometimes the most hottest team ends up being the most the team that struggles the most. So you just never know. That's what's good about conference play. You never know. And sometimes the lowest team in the conference or the mid team in the conference end up being that first team and dominate everyone. You just never know. So I'm excited to see what conference play is going to be like, and I'm definitely excited what Alabama A&M and Grambling State are going to bring in Grambling and at Alabama State. But to sum all that up, Deuce, I'm just going to say, I wrote this down, some key insights. Bulldogs second half, Alabama A&M responded in the second half, outscoring Ole Miss 37-36. As a matter of fact, I want y'all to write this. I want y'all to write that down because I'm going to say it again because it actually made sense to me. And it made me feel good in my spirit just to say that. The Bulldogs second half push. Alabama A&M responded in the second half, outscoring Ole Miss 37-36. Now, before I go any further, let me say this. It's not easy to score that many points on a team like Ole Miss, especially in the SEC conference, one of the most dominant conferences in college basketball today. And also, and I'm going to add this. You can add this down too. And shooting 50% from the three-point range for the game. But it wasn't enough to overcome the early deficit. I will say this. The early deficit was a little too much for Alabama A&M to handle. But I would say it was a good experience for them. Because even though these money games are, some people say they're not necessary. Some people say, it is for money purposes. But I will say this, it's kind of good for experience. Because when you play teams like Ole Miss and, Florida State or Alabama or, I can go over Ohio State because if I remember correctly, Grambling play Ohio State next.
Yeah, they play them Tuesday. They play them Tuesday.
So even though these games are not necessary, that is true, but it's a good experience for these players to understand, how to compete at a high level. And I think that's what some of these coaches do by picking these schools is to test out their competitiveness with these big schools. And I'm not against that. I'm just against, at first I was against, them playing these big schools for money purposes. But when I look at it over time, I ask myself, okay, it makes sense because from a competitive level. And I'm not against that at all. But to switch gears, I will say this: the hot start for Ole Miss, and I wrote this down. The Rebels shot an impressive 65% from the field in the first half to build a commanding 44-29 halftime lead. Alabama A&M's three-point shooting. Write this down. The Bulldogs were efficient from beyond the arc, shooting, like I said before, 50%, which means they shot 9 of 18 from the three-point range for the game, with Simi, I don't know how to say his last name. I'm not even, for the sake of time, I'm not even going to try to pronounce it. Leading the way with 17 points and 5 assists. Deuce, the bench points. And I'm going to leave it at this, and I'm going to give it back to you. The Ole Miss bench outscored Alabama A&M's bench 37-18, demonstrating the Rebels' depth. And I think that's another thing you have to understand when you're playing these big schools, that these big schools, they have a lot more depth than these HBCU schools. If you just look at the bench wise, you kind of, it's just like, yeah, these big schools, their bench is more fuller and stuff like that. That is true, but sometimes it doesn't really matter about the amount of players. It's just you can have 10 players on a roster and they're all ballers and they all compete and they make the game a whole lot more competitive than what you anticipate. And I think that's what Alabama. That's what Ole Miss saw in Alabama A&M, just how competitive they were, regardless of their bench size. And that's kind of what I'd be saying all the time, that regardless of these HBCU schools, what y'all people have to understand, and I'm talking to the uneducated HBCU folk right now, what you have to understand about HBCUs in general is that, like I said before, yes, we are smaller, but make no mistake, we will compete with you if we have to. And don't think that, oh, this is just a scrimmage game. I mean, in a way, you can look at it that way if you want. Because dudes, I'm not even gonna say and be delusional. People think that. I can tell. Because if you watch the games, you can just tell these people they ain't worried about this game. They know what's gonna happen. But what they don't know is that how competitive these teams are, and they'd be like, wow, you kind of have to give credit to them, regardless of them being HCU school, they're very dominant. Yes, they are. And you have to understand that.
I agree. And look, for time purposes, look, we were gonna talk about FAMU, but I mean, FAMU alums know how the Tarleton State game went. Maybe me and Michael, sometime throughout the week, we will to make it back up. We will talk about FAMU. But look, I will say this because me and Michael do have to, get on to filming another video because we are behind. But like I'm just gonna say this next week. Just look for it. Next week we will be talking Howard. Howard is 9-5 on the year. I feel like they're not getting as much exposure as they deserve. The Howard Bison, we'll be talking about them. Coppin State, and maybe Michael, maybe you and Nate can choose the next two HBCUs we talk about. But I just feel like as the week's going, we're going to have to focus on different teams each week. And Grambling, one thing I will say, due to the fact that we are Grambling, I am a Grambling student and we are Grambling supporters. We have to cover Grambling at least once every week. So yeah, Grambling will automatically be included to talk about. But yeah, next week I will say that be on the lookout. We will be talking Howard and we will be talking Coppin State for sure. Their upcoming matchups. I know Coppin State, they're not doing so hot right now, but they play Georgetown. They play Delaware State coming up. Conference play is about to start really soon for the SWAC and the MEAC. So we will have more when conference play starts. We will have more, way more content to talk about. But Michael, what are your closing remarks on this?
I'm just gonna say it to all HBCU players and teams out there: keep balling at a high level, and especially for Grambling, keep competing at a high level, because conference play starts in January, and that's where the real party starts. So, if I'm Grambling, I would keep playing at a high level. What you did in the Chris Paul HBCU Classic, you made a statement. You went 2-0. A lot of people didn't expect you to, but you pulled it off. You beat teams that are really good, and you basically showed commentators, those commentators in general, Grambling is one of the tallest teams as far as height wise in the Classic. So that just shows you that Grambling has talent, Norfolk has talent, Hampton has talent, Clark Atlanta has talent. All these things have talent. But I will say this for my closing remark: the conference play is going to be really something interesting to look forward to. And Deuce, I know you, me, Nate, we're definitely gonna dig deep into watching these conference play come up. And I will say this, for the sake of time, I am excited to see where we go from here. I have not spoken to Nate about it, but it's looking like some big things are going to come up. I can't say what right now, but y'all have us in your prayers, because we're trying. I think something big is about to happen for me and Deuce that I can't really specifically put out right now. But as far as HCUs, I'm ready for conference play.
Agreed. And look, like I said, we got to get going. But like I said, make sure you like, comment, subscribe if you are new to this channel. If you're just watching specifically for HBCU basketball, maybe you should check out our other content. We have a wide variety of content. If you check out in our playlist, we have Michael's takes, we have my takes, we have Adam's takes, we have Ben's takes. So we have takes. We got if this is not your niche, we got HBCU football, we got college football. If you just scroll all the way down to October, we got our weekly podcast that we do with the group where we talk about NFL and NBA if that's your niche. And if you're into the MLB, scroll all the way down, and that's where we talk about MLB. So I know this is the start of a new series, a new segment of HBCU basketball. And as months keep rolling on, you'll start to see more segments. Eventually, we're going to have people to look. The ultimate goal is, as you see, as the time keeps going on, you start to see more and more co-hosts join the show. You see on our main podcast, you see Tyron, you see MJ, you see all these guests join. On here, you see Nate join. I'm gonna tell y'all this though, to the ones watching and to the ones not watching, they're missing out on this. The ultimate vision for Inside the Locker Room is to be so big that we have so many segments that content is just coming out left and right. And eventually we're going to have so many content collaborators that we have so much content to get out. It's just like a tree branch. It's branching from content to content to content. I know right now, I hated that I didn't get to start on college football, not, let me take that back, because HBCU football is actual college football, but Power 5 college football, where a lot of people are watching. I hate that I didn't get to that, but I feel like I am holding up on time. But as always, thank you for watching. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and share. Get us 300. We're at 289. Whoever unfollowed us, unsubscribed, please subscribe back. But as always, thank you for watching, and thank you for subscribing and liking Inside the Locker Room.